very happy to introduce you to Alain Waha, who works in the private sector as the digital transformation lead at BuroHappold, but also is involved with many consortia that affect policymaking in the UK through Cogital. That's an advocate for higher degrees of digitalization and business models in the AEC industry. I met Alain a few years ago at a conference in Dubai where a longtime collaborator came up to me and said, if you meet one person at this conference, it has to be Alain. And so that was my introduction. And it's been great to have known you and be inspired by your work and your vision.
Thank you, Martin. How can I follow that? I don't know. Just to be, totally clear, I'm here as a spokesperson to many people's work, and I want to acknowledge that up front. I think this community is absolutely amazing. And what I want to share today is how we're trying to put this work into play, into a market with a £35 billion pipeline. So what we've been gifted is this opportunity to try to apply what we've collectively as a community been imagining. And so you can see at the top there of the screen, Mace is a construction company, very innovative construction company in the UK. Grimshaw is well-known architectural and very much focused on manufacturability, and BuroHappold is quite innovative as well. And I know that then triggers a question: what are we doing working with government? And maybe what follows will explain. So as I'm clicking away, so last year, that was previous episode, Bryden Wood came and presented at the Industrialized Construction Forum the hypothesis that a platform construction system would allow at scale delivery of social built asset for a country. And that's where we left it. And I encourage all of you to go to the website and read and follow. It was very fundamental. And we now being gifted the chance to take that forward. So done quite a bit of thinking about how do we take this forward in terms of market conditions. So I think we need to acknowledge those that are trying to understand what are these business model and market scenarios. I'm fond of this one around the emergence of open market scenarios with more integrative supply chains, but inside a digital ecosystem that is open. And also the idea that ultimately the market will accelerate and transform if it's driven through a combination of policy-driven scenarios and industrialized scenarios. And this is an excerpt, again, out of another paper that I was very fortunate to be able to assemble. Thank you, Martin, for your input this year. The movement afoot is this government-funded market acceleration program, which we call the Construction Innovation Hub in the UK. So we are about halfway through it now. It's a 3-year program, and it's funded to the tune of £72 million. The promise of the partners, so this program was put together by a combination of building research, the manufacturing technology centers. So this is a research institutes that makes, for example, research in additive 3D printing for Rolls-Royce and the like, and the Center for Digital Build Britain. And so the promise is, let's deliver better outcomes in the public sector built asset at scale. And recently you saw the construction playbook and something called the value toolkit, when we're trying to measure outcomes across the 5 capital values. And so, that is the promise. You can see digital twinning, you can see digital fabrication, and you can also see the industry and government agreeing to work together. And work together, that's what's been assembled, a very large team. I think we have more than 170 live collaborators working on trying to make this platform construction system work. And what I'll just share today is that progress and what is it that we are trying to assemble. So we've assembled first a program that's going to run for 3 years that is establishing an industrialized construction approach to assurance, so that the manufacturing supply chain that will supply the industrialized construction system has a new assurance framework. We've called that the construction quality planning, and that's overlaid over the traditional AIA type stages of delivering a building in the UK RIBA stages. So we are at the beginning. The first thing is, what is it that we're trying to build? And it's quite interesting. What do we want to build? And well, what we want to build is about 35 billion pounds, as I mentioned earlier, of public assets. And then we've gone quite deep now into a report called Identifying and Defining the Needs. And we've identified that about 13 billion of that pipeline can be delivered through a platform construction system. On the right, you see the distribution of spaces and area. There's some insights already from an industrialized mindset that comes to mind. For example, we say everything is a one-off. We discover that toilets are a one-off, to the point that we have 104 different ways of naming a toilet across the government procurement. So not only do we make it 100 times more difficult for ourselves, we also find that every building is individual, but 50% of each building on average is actually not individual at all. It's made, the buildings, 50% of it in space and value is actually hallways, corridors, bathrooms, storage spaces that repeat. They repeat at scale, and they have got no part of the DNA of the building. And then what's even more encouraging is that 38% of what we will build for government, actually the rest of the industry want to also buy at scale to deliver housing. So you have an entrainment effect. If you use your procurement, government procurement pipeline, you will actually industrialize the market at scale, or that's the hypothesis. So you need to design a system, some kind of a platform system that delivers those assets and that defines how these will be industrially built in an open market. And so that's where the word platform is very, very important. And again, there's a lot of really good work done here, Annabel Gower at University of Surrey, on the nature of platform and how these apply to construction. Imperial in London, Jennifer White's done a lot of work with Daniel, I know, on what is the type of platform we're trying to make emerge, and what is the governance that's going to apply. So we want a supply chain platform, and we want an industry platform, and we also want an innovation platform. We're not so much interested in a transaction platform, but we want to create a platform construction system into which all those speakers today and yesterday that were imagining new ways of delivering components of buildings can come and innovate and participate in the emergent supply chain. And we also want that platform construction system to enable a new type of ecosystem and business models. And Daniel mentioned the longitudinal integration, but also this disaggregation of demand, because obviously we need to deliver these buildings at scale across the whole of the UK. So trying to disaggregate and reaggregate demand in a more fluid open market type situation is one of the objectives of this platform construction system. So you then set to work, and obviously this is work in progress, but you disaggregate fully the buildings and the parts that make it, but also the function they perform and how they will be put together. And you gradually reassemble a kit of rules that needs to be delivered or applied to deliver the performance that you want from a given space or a given envelope. And then these reaggregate and get applied to systems and parts. And this rule kit becomes what we now calling the platform construction system rulebook. And so that rulebook is how a client will procure to the rulebook, because it will find an industrialized construction supply chain that can make and deliver to that rulebook. What is, of course, interesting is to abstract that complexity through the use of configurators. So I have to, again, acknowledge all the fantastic work, and we've got the parametric teams in the room going on about what these configurators? What do they do? What do they abstract? What's the next level? And it is not about design computation. It's about knowledge encoding, as Ain mentioned yesterday, and it is about constraining. So manufacturing aware, Daniel was mentioning a minute ago, manufacturing aware design systems so that the rule book encodes not only what is needing to be delivered, but how it can be delivered, and ensures upfront at the contracting point. Which brings the next point, and again, I want to acknowledge the work, Daniel's recent paper and the work done on decoupling points in engineering supply chains around understanding that these different, there is not going to be one configurator, there are going to be hundreds of configurator, and we now have an ontology to work with of the type of configurator that support different user journeys, and also in their nature, they're going to have to hand over different types of information as demonstrated by the type of information that gets transmitted at the decoupling points. So you end up having to establish composable digital configurators. And so one of the things that we now going to be publishing as part of the platform construction rulebook is this common configurator framework that allows composability, thereby creating a market in the UK for configurators. So all people that want to deliver a component to the system will also want to deliver the rules of those components, and those will be embedded into configurator by vendors of configurator. Simply, they will comply to the or they will link into the common configurator framework, thereby making the ecosystem work together. So I'll just wrap up to say that we have some ambition, as I mentioned at the beginning, 13 billion over 5 years of delivering across the UK to this system. And we are mobilizing, obviously, a system platform thinking that decomposes the building, decomposes the demand, and then encodes in a rule book how a manufacturer will meet that demand, the interface points that they need to that they need to comply to. But we are also establishing new business models, and these are emergent about the different roles that people will take in making a building, assembling a building, contracting a building of this type, and the digital configurator and the digital delivery platforms that go with it and allow that complexity to for the first time be abstracted, so that we have a fully configured building at the moment of purchase. So that's a very quick whistle-stop tour of accelerating IC in the UK market, trying to apply as many concepts that this forum has developed over the last 7 years. So I want to thank the community and say, we have a big pipeline, and we're just getting started.